Good morning. My name is Brenda Bond. I'm a project manager for the Nashville Technology Council, and I would like to welcome you all to our Tech Coach event. We are going to be discussing the art of networking, how and where to shine like a diamond. And I'm pleased to introduce our host, Frank DePizzo, who is I'll make sure I get this right, Frank, Director of Sales for the Southeast with Swim Lane.
You got it right. Thank you.
Awesome. Frank, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let you take it.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just wanted to, again, on a Friday doing this and right before Labor Day doing this. So it's good to have who we have on here. Oh, I think we just lost someone. Maybe. Okay. That's all right. Maybe but I was going to say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through some information, one slide. I'm not a slide fan, but I'm going to cover one slide really with some items. And I'm going to run through some real life stories with the slide is the point. But then I'm going to go real life, go through what do I do? You know, how does that work for me? And hopefully it'll work for you. That's the whole idea. I'm also, I think someone's joining now, Brenda. I'm also going to share with you my contact information in the chat. So if you have an email, I'll give you my personal email. No offense, I don't want my work email to get blown up as it already is, but I'll share with you my personal email, and sure, I'll get back with you any questions you have from this. So that's really the intent. This is really interaction. I asked Brenda, maybe if you have questions, we'll have some at the end, what I mean. And if you put them in the chat, she can monitor those and we can conduct it this way. I'm not pausing and stopping because Lord knows I might forget something if I do that, but that's it. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and start going into what I mentioned, and hopefully you all should see my screen. So I called it, I love the, actually, I didn't come up with this topic. Actually, the NTC did, the art of networking. So I like the picture of the person at the end because it's like, well, where do I go on this stuff, right? It's like, it's so much out there. And I think everybody would agree. And what I really want to cover in this starting to network is, why do we network in general? Why do we even do this? Why is it important? Well, it does provide a way to get noticed, without a doubt. If you're not in front of someone, how do you get noticed? You can sit like we're doing these Zoom calls. That could give you away, but you really have to network to get yourself noticed. And like I said, I'm going to share with you some examples, like right here is an example. Provide some opportunities in career and opportunities in sales. And let me give you an example. In careers, in 2001, I had just moved my family. We were Florida based, then North Carolina based, and I took a job promotion into Illinois. And that was in 2000, at the end of 2000. And it was a year later, I was laid off. And it was like, oh my gosh, you know, because I'd worked my entire career, as I still am, but it was like a moment in time where I had to pause. Now, how do I get a job now, starting again? Because I never networked, is the point. The other thing is LinkedIn, which everyone knows about, didn't start until 2003. So I didn't even have a LinkedIn. So it was like even more of a way to, how do I start doing these things? So it took me a while, but eventually I networked with some people. And it was interesting. I remember I met with a recruiter and we talked and we became friends. He tried to help, but it became friends. And I got a job on my own. And then not long after that, maybe about a year, he called me up. Hey, Frank, there's an opportunity. It would report to my boss. I think you'd probably be the right person. And I got that job. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have had that job, is the point. So networking, I've experienced the trial of being out of work, and that's not a fun thing for anyone. But ever since then, I've been honed in on building a network, building a presence, and I'll walk through some of those. The other thing is in sales, I run the Southeast region for Swim Lane. Just real quick, we're a security automation platform that many large enterprises use. But with that said, I've been in my sales career, even before Swim Lane, it's the way where I've been able to get meetings that otherwise I wouldn't get, meaning through networking. So in any stage in life, being career or sales, networking is the only way it's worked for me. And I think in this world today, it is the only way you're going to get business done, or sales careers potentially. And the other thing is you develop long lasting relationships. I'll tell you another quick story. I hope to make it quick. And that was in 2010. I attended an event. It was the Executives Club of Chicago. The CIO of the year that was awarded was John Henshaw. John was the CIO for Boeing Corporation, headquartered in Chicago. Did somebody say something? Oh, okay. In Chicago. And I went there really to meet with John. And I remember there was an after hour event, and I read some things about him before I went there. And there was an after hour event recognizing him, and everybody was chatting. I went up and talked to him. And it came up that we had some similarities in our, he had been in Tampa. I lived in Tampa. He worked for Verizon. I worked for MC. We went through that whole thing. And you know what? We became friends from that time. Was I looking at Boeing as a potential opportunity to sell? Yes. Was it something that I thought I could market to once I got to know Boeing? No, not with the company I was working for then. But, since then, John and I have carried that friendship. In fact, his brother worked for me at my one company, not knowing that at the time. That relationship is now 12 years. I have a cell phone. We communicate. He's now the chief operating officer for HSBC. I'm sorry. So, but it doesn't matter. Those are relationships more than just for what it is in business or even career. So where do you start? Well, I use this as an analogy for those who may know I'm a little dated. Let your fingers do the walking. So anybody know there's white pages? When we used to have them, that was the commercial slang. Let your fingers do the walking. Well, let your fingers do the walking to the internet, or the social sites we'll walk through, because really the internet is a source of so much information, a lot of good information when it comes to what we do. And the other thing is, where do you start? Is who are you trying to connect with? And what do you really know about them? Because too oftentimes you really want to go in there and say, I want to talk to whoever. Okay, what do you know about them? You have to take a pause back, because so much of it is about ourselves. It's about the other person on the other side of the desk is the point, or in person. Have they written about something? That's a really good thing. If someone came up to me and said, hey, I saw that you wrote about this, and I really found it interesting when you said that, I'm going to probably step back and listen to you a little bit more than saying, hey, I really like to talk to you about what I do. It's all about me again, right? There's two different ways to approach that. And what do you know about the company? Because a lot of times I want to work for you. What do you know about it? So again, that's important. But then, do you know someone who's connected in that company, or who do they know? Another real life example. I was trying to get a job in 2010. The company was OpNet, really. And I'll never forget, a recruiter called me, and I'm not saying anything bad about recruiters. They're great people. In fact, I had a business as a recruiter at one time. It just didn't work out. But at the same time, a recruiter called me about this job, and it was with this OpNet company. And he interviewed, and I gave him all the information. It went fabulous. He says, you're the guy. I'm going to present you. We're going to get you in there. I said, great. I think it was about a week later. I didn't hear anything. I called Brian. I said, I'm reaching out to you. I wanted to find out what the next steps are. He goes, remind me. I go, remind you. And I walk through, he says, nah, I don't think you're the right fit. I go, what do you mean I'm not the right fit? I went through and found out someone I know that worked at OpNet, called him up. He said, well, Frank, that role reports to my boss. He put me in touch, and then I got that job. Had I not done those steps, I would have just listened to the one person. I wouldn't have got that job. So that's what I mean by that. And then, what are the right groups to invest my time and resources? Time is valuable. Resources, I mean resources which you might spend to attend an event. Those are two important things. My time is very valuable. My resources equally as valuable, as I'm sure, as it is with you. So that's what I mean by that. So that's what I wanted to cover to the baseline about what we're going to start going into. So I want to cover those, and then I'm going to go into some actual real life. What do I do? So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so I can bring up my browser, and then I'm going to share again so I bring you up to that. Okay. So you do see my browser, I hope. Okay, so I moved to Nashville. I moved to Tennessee, I should say, in 2018. I wasn't calling Tennessee in 2018. I was calling the Midwest still. So in 2020, 22, January, I started to now cover the Southeast for swim lane. I knew companies in here, so this is not what I would do. But if I had been, I would have said, okay, who are the companies in Nashville? Nashville Chamber of Commerce. Well, that's a good wealth of information. You come here. That's all I did. I come over here and I start exploring major employers right there. All right, so I look down and I start seeing Vandy Medical Center, Nissan North America. I can go down here. There's Walgreens and Shoney's. Well, they're not headquartered here. I mean, they have presence when I see that. But, there's a lot of information there. It could be good. It could be not necessarily what I want. But you know what? Everybody on this call has an opportunity with the NTC, because NTC has this good information right here called Nashville Companies. So you know what? If I was coming here, I'd be like looking at this is gold. And that's what I mean by that. So I come down here and I start looking and I'm trying to find a company. And I think, wow, who do I want to go work for? Who would I really like to go work for if I was? And I say, wow, there's Asurion. So I go to Asurion and I go to LinkedIn where I am right now. So I'm not doing anything. I just went to LinkedIn, typed here Asurion, right? And I come up to their LinkedIn page. Now I want to know about them. So I'm going to search about them, which I am right now. I'm just looking at them and what they do. Okay, this is interesting, right? And I come through, but then I look at their post. I found this is interesting. This came out yesterday, this post. So this came out 23 hours ago. This week, Nashville Electric Service announced that Asurion's own CIO, Cso Santos, has been appointed the newest member of the Electric Power Board. That's pretty significant. Now, Casey's a person of influence in the tech field, as we know. I mean, she's chief information officer. So what would I do? Well, let's go look at the people here. Now, all the people are listed here. That's all I did. I click and here's all the people and I can list. And if anybody knows LinkedIn, I know Brendan let me know that there is actual LinkedIn session like this. So I don't want to steal the thunder on that, but I will say I use LinkedIn a lot and I have filters here. So hopefully they'll cover that. But my point is I'm looking here. I see Casey. I think, okay, I'm going to pull up Casey. Now I'm going to go to my browser here. I typed in Cso Santos panel speaker. Look at that. And I can find all things about Casey. Now look at this little invite here. If I was looking for a job, do you think this one here, Asurion CIO Cso Santos, is talking about talent recruitment? I think that would be very important to listen. What is Casey saying about talent recruitment? It's 23 minutes. And actually I went through it and she's talking about the culture, what they're looking for, the type of roles they're looking for, talking about the hybrid workforce. That's very good information if I'm looking for a job. Now, if I'm looking for in my role or someone else's like, I might come down here and see that this is one over here. She's speaking about business transformation, fairly recent too. I think that's important if you're wanting to talk about, I want to meet Casey or someone from her team, talk about my services. What are they saying? As a CIO, she's talking about the vision, present day, future day. So that's an important item is my point. So now let me go, if I can move this annoying thing from Zoom out of my way. Okay, now I'm going to look at another company. Now this one's going to be in Georgia. And the reason I'm going to show you it because I cover Atlanta, but it's the same presence, same example, I should say, as if it was another company. And I'll tell you why this is important. I go over here. This company is Aaron's company. Aaron's company, by the way, anybody buy refrigerators or any kind of electronic appliance, these are the guys. The same thing though, I'm looking at their homepage, I look about them, I look at their post, pretty interesting. Had nothing about Casey like that, but jobs, I'm like, well, there's nothing here maybe, but I'm really interested in my stuff, meaning what I sell to someone like an Aaron's. And I go over here and I find this David Nolan. And David Nolan is the Chief Information Security Officer. Now, in my role, that would be very significant because I offer cybersecurity services. In your role, if you're a salesperson, maybe that is something, maybe some other services. But my point is, these are people you're trying to maybe learn about, meet. Now, I go to David's site and I start looking about him now. Now I'm looking about Aaron's company. I see his role. I see things he's been, nothing really stands out. I don't know him really. He's not really connected to people. I mean, I know one of the two people really well, that might be a good opportunity for me to network in with him is what I mean. But then I start looking down, I see this, I go, board member of National Technology Coalition. What is that? So I think I'll click it. So I click it and I come to their page. And I'm looking at them and I think, wow, that doesn't look like only 32 employees. I might blow that away, right? Because I don't really think 32 employees for something like that might be really important. But if I click it, I find out that David is part of it. I find out that this person out of Ohio, Lori, is also a chief information security officer, is part of it. I find out Jack is also a chief security officer, or Jamil, who's of Equifax, or Kevin, who is part of a chief information security officer out of Columbus, Georgia, but New York City, Minneapolis. These are executives around the country is the point. They are not necessarily, they're not a company, they're an association that all of these important people are part of. If I'm trying to market or maybe get a job or try to sell my services and it's in line with what they do, I should know what this is all about. This is important stuff. So let me go to their site because I can go to their website just like I did before. And this is who they are. So you think about it, you start seeing about them, you start looking at these things, you start going to their advocacy, you look around all the events. Okay, what's that all about? But then I'm going to go over to resources and I see this thing about Cso Conversations. What's that about? Well, these are different CISOs that I just showed you, all of them giving an interview. There's David, and their questions about their business. What are some of their obstacles? What are they trying to improve? All the things that for me would be very important. If I'm talking to them as a company, to sell my services, very important. If I'm trying to get a job, very important to know where maybe I can help them with my skill set. Now I'm going to go back to some of these things because I do use this site, by the way. And this is a real cool one I found. And again, I just plug and play. When I say I'm a detective, my job is really in development. I have to use my fingers, do the walking. I have to use just search, find things that make sense. Not all of them do, but most of them do come out. And this is one. This is one with Jamil, very well-known chief information security officer, giving a fireside chat. This is a video. Now you're really capturing his voice, the things he's talking about, things that are important. This is very important is my point. And you have them from all different type of people in his space all around the country. That's free. If I go over here to events, there's an events calendar. If I can pop it. This is a roundtable in Chicago. And I'm not going to Chicago. Well, I get it. But if you go down here, this is a virtual event. That was held in March, but they do have virtual events. There was somebody on the survey that I remember reading was looking at virtual events as well as physical events. This is an example where you can find a virtual event to take part in. So these are opportunities that you can be part of. May not even cost you anything, and you're gaining so much valuable information from a job, from a sales opportunity, if that's what it is, but you're also connecting with people. Back to the networking, so important. Now I'm going to go to another group that I know I came from, Chicago, obviously, as I mentioned. This group is called the Association of IT Professionals. They are now part of Comptia, and I'm going to walk through them as well. Now, AITP out of Chicago still has a presence on their own site, and I'm going to it right now. And if you look at it, they're talking about upcoming events, which I'm looking at right now. And I'm going to show you when I click this one. These are look, CIO of the year. You know, these are Chief Information of the Year finalists. Now, why would I want to maybe partake in that? Well, first of all, for the person maybe asked for virtual, there's virtual opportunity too. even though they're in Chicago. Why do I think I would want to attend a virtual event in Chicago? Well, could they be a business in Chicago that has openings here in Tennessee? Yes. Do I want to know what the CIO of a major retailer might be saying that maybe might help me with what I'm doing here? Yes. So this is always a good information, and it's free. Now, when I go here, I can look at I look at the calendar of all these, and a lot of these people I know from my days living there. This Pat Maroney, I'll tell you a story about him in a minute. Great guy. But the one I'm going to go to is this one out here. It's coming up next week. This is with the Chief Information Security Officer of Discover Financial Services. Now, everyone knows Discover, right? I have a Discover card. I have an American Express card. Don't put money on them. Just kidding. But my point is, that's a very important person. And I know Kevin Glenn from my days up there. He's the moderator. Let me go to Discover site. I went to their careers page. And that's all I did. I went to the Discover site, went to their careers page, and I refined my search just to remote work right here. And these are the jobs that came up for remote work. So a lot of companies are offering remote work right now, and there's a ton here. And I might then look at, and it goes up to 8 pages. I might then want to look at Discover and then see who is their technical recruiter. And then see if and there's a technical recruiter right here that I would want to reach out to after I listen to the CIO said at the forum. Maybe something like, I just attended, I listened to the CIO name, and I found it interesting when they were talking about Discover's a company I've been wanting to work for. My job skills are, I would like to see if I can schedule a call to see how I might be able to explore a career opportunity. You've identified that you explored the company, things that were said that align to what he might know from the CIO, why you're the right candidate and why I would like to work there. Chances are that person might take your in message more so than someone saying, I want a job. So those are the type of things why I look at networking and doing these type of things are so important. It gives you an opportunity to make yourself relevant more so than someone just reaching out and sending a message saying, I'd like to talk to you about a job. That's an example of that. The next one I'm going to go through is Comptia. Now, Comptia, I mentioned before, AITP, they acquire them. But if you look at over here, these are events they're holding. And I go down here and I look at all events and look at all these events that are the online ones too, that someone was mentioning again. These are offered on these dates. These are ones you can take part in to learn, meet, and build a network and see what other things you can find out when you attend these. It's all about knowledge. That's really is. It's all about conversation. It's all about people. Too often times we feel like as soon as I see someone, I need to go right into my, we'll say, pitch. No, it's really having a conversation about the person and trying to establish it that way. Now,
hey, this is good stuff, man. I was curious, which level of LinkedIn are you using?
I use premium. There's Navigator, which is the way off the chart. I don't find that valuable for me. The basic doesn't give you in-message capability, which I use. You get those. And by the way, for anybody on the call, LinkedIn gives you a free account. Free means you get static. You get to see things very limited. I think mine is grandfathered, and I think I pay 19 a month. I think it's 29 a month. On that platform, you get to send so many messages a month. You get to see your profile. You get a lot more capabilities. If I'm looking for a job or if I'm selling my services, it's well worth the spend to do that, to expose myself and to have the capability of doing those things. You don't want to be a spammer on messages when I say that, but if you do the things I was mentioning before, where I was saying like the Discover person, I'm going to go and do some fact finding before I send an in message. Your chances are somebody's not going to spam you for that, is my point, because you've done some homework. So hopefully that helped. The next thing I'm going to go to, because somebody had asked the question about a large technology event upcoming. I'm assuming it's this analytics summit. So I know nothing about analytics, by the way. It's not my wheelhouse, but it doesn't mean that I don't network the same way. So what I want to show you, if I can move my screen again. Okay. Let's see, let me do that. Is that I went over here and I start looking at the people that are at the summit. So I came down here and I found this person right here, Rigesh, and I won't try the last name, again with Ashurian. And I thought, okay, if I am someone who is interested in the summit, who obviously is data analytics, then I'm saying to myself, how do I get to meet this person? And really, I could have done the same thing for any of these people. I just picked him as an example. So the first thing I do is go to his LinkedIn profile and I look at him. By the way, here's someone that really doesn't put a lot of information in, you know, although my picture's dated, I at least have my picture. I try to update my information. I try to post information, share information. It's an important thing. It shows people if you're looking for a job or even if you're selling your services, you're actively engaged in whatever that may be. So I highly recommend that. Now, I'm not saying anything about him because this is just what I'm showing you as an exercise here. He hasn't posted anything lately, as I said, but does that mean it's not somebody I want to talk to? Of course not. He's a Ashurian. I just mentioned that. So I go over here and he's going to be at the event. I'm going to be at the event. I think I might want to talk to him. So what do? Well, I come over here, I put his name in, company name, podcast, and I come over here. It's a recap of their inaugural subsurface meetup call, and it's talking about this DPS. It's their internal product. He's part of it, and this is back in May, so it's not that old. And I won't do it because if I put it up, it'll start playing and everything. But if I listen to it, I'm going to get some sound bites, and probably from him, that if I go up and see him at this conference, hi, my name is Frank. I really appreciate your speaking that you just did today. And I did just capture something that you did on DPS. I found that interesting. Yeah, I was really wanting to speak to you a little bit more about that. Do you have a few minutes? You know, carry a conversation, because what you've just identified is something probably very important to him because he's referenced in it. It's posted on the net. He's probably pretty proud of it too. And he'll say, sure. And then you can go into talk and then say, you know, seems like a company I really like to work for. Do you have any advice? You know, just something like that. Just carrying conversation is all it is. Sometimes when we meet people, we get things like, you know, how to get a little nervous. I get it, but it's just really people. We're all people. So I want to go to another person again, this side again. And this time I'm going to go down. I found this guy very interesting, this with the magnifying glass, Jason Parker. But and he's with HCA, very big company, as we all know. And I went over here and I found Jason over here. Now his site, look at it. He's got a lot of information on here. I mean, I could probably spend some time with you going through his site, which I won't, but I mean, there is some information here. Now, again, I go over here, I find an article, and where did I find that article? I should have told you. It was down here. He had posted it. And I looked at it because it's something he shared on his LinkedIn profile. Now, it must be something important because he shared it on his network because it's something that obviously he's involved in. And if I'm in data analytics, you know this much better than I would know what this is all about. But I'm going to read this, capture some information. Same thing as the last guy. I'm going to probably want to talk about some things with him. Say, Jason, I found it interesting. I was reading this article that you posted on LinkedIn. And I really found it interesting when you spoke about, you know, that's just some of the things I'm working in my career. And, you know, HCA is a company I've been wanting to work for. And really the things you're doing sound very exciting. Do you have any advice? You know, that type of thing. So it's, someone asked about a 20, 30 seconds pitch. Those are really my pitch. A pitch is really what I call it, but just conversation. So I covered a lot in a little bit of time, and I hope I didn't blow you through those real quickly, and I can go through them again, but I really wanted to spend some time when I go through searches. How do I get there? Why do I do that? Now, the one thing I'll leave you with at the end And it was really at this one here. I mentioned Pat Maroney. Pat Maroney, and I go back to 2006. I was attending a conference in Chicago. He was one of the CIOs on a panel of 4, bunch of salespeople. It was probably about, I don't know, 100 people in this room. And they're going through, all their discussion. I can't remember what it was about, as the CIOs were going back and forth, but then they gave questions to the floor. And a salesperson, not me, asked the question, how do I get an appointment with you, to Pat? And he goes, well, if you have something that's important that I think is that I can use, I'll get back in touch with you. It was the follow-up question. I thought, really, did you say that? And the follow-up question was, well, how do I know you'll do that? It was like, oh my gosh. And Pat said, well, let me ask you a question, and all of you in this room. How many of you give back to your local community? How many of you are involved in organizations? And he mentioned one, which I won't share, but it was an organization that all the chief information officers in Chicago are involved in. And he said, that's what it's all about. So at the end, I had done some read on Pat, as I showed you what I do. I said, hi, Pat, my name's Frank DePizzo. It's really nice meeting you, and shook hands. I said, Pat, I recall you being the CIO of the year of 2004, and it shows it right there. And I remember that still this day. And I said, he said, well, you do your homework. I said, well, it's important for me. And I said, but the thing that really stood out, you mentioned about this organization. Pat, it sounds very interesting. I know nothing about it. He says, you know what? How about a cup of coffee? I said, I'd love it. And he and I went and had a cup of coffee. He got me involved with that group. And I've been involved with it to this day for 16 years. But it was all about what I said, and what I said to him, not about, Pat, can I talk to you about my company? Can I talk? No, I talked to him as a person. And really, that's what it's about when you talk about networking. So I'm going to pause there and stop my share. Hopefully this has been helpful for what I've covered so far, but I'm here to answer questions, and I know Brenda's monitoring the chat, so I'll just stop now. And by the way, everyone's on mute. Brenda, you're on mute. And then I'm going to share you. I meant to tell you, I am going to share with everybody right here on this before I forget. This is my personal email. If you have any questions, it's on the chat that you can reach out to with any questions.
Nice job with the approach with Pat. That's key. And honestly, if other folks are getting spammed in their LinkedIn inbox, they can all appreciate how Pat feels and why that relational approach is so much better. If you don't have a reason, if you have reason to connect with them, then you have reason to connect with them as a human also, right? He's a holistic person. So
Absolutely.
Great job on that, man.
Well, appreciate that. And one thing I'll say, in my space in cybersecurity, give you an example of what this might be when you look at an executive's job, or anybody really in some kind of a role in a company. Take Casey over Assurant. In my company, in our sector, cyber, there's over 4,000 different tools out there, different cybersecurity tools. Think about that. Do you think each of those companies have a salesperson? Yep. Do you think every salesperson's trying to reach the same person? Yep. Do you think every that company, that person that they're trying to market to is getting a lot of email, voicemail, whatever? You bet. So your chances of getting to them is just what you said earlier. They're going to get spammed out. I'm not saying you might not get lucky, but this is the way the marketing has led, the way networking has led us to. If you're selling services, technology, or anything, if you're selling yourself for a career, everybody's doing the same thing. That's why you have to think a little bit differently to elevate who you are as a person.
Frank, I think you already answered this, but the one question that's in here is, which level subscription of LinkedIn do you use? So maybe you could just repeat that.
Yeah, no problem. So I use the premium. There's a basic, there's a premium. I think there's one even called Navigator. I chose not to choose that one for what I have at my company. And really, premium does everything probably for what you would want that I just showed you. And messages, who's viewing your profile, all the things you would want to know. And
do you know off the top of your head what the cost per month is on that?
About $29 a month, I think, for the premium.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
It used to be 18, but they raised it.
Of course. Just so you all know, if you haven't looked in the chat, I have dropped in some links. Salesforce has a program called Trailhead that if you want to get, you can, for free, you can get trained in Salesforce online. So I dropped that link in there to the website. Then also Google has a program, it's called Grow with Google. It's also free of charge. So I dropped the link in there for you to check that out as well. And then my original copy and paste of these events and networking type sites didn't work. So scroll down and you'll see a few of our Tech Council and Tech into Nashville sites you can look at for links to different peer groups, to community groups that meet up monthly or, you know, more often in Nashville that maybe are more general, like Women in Technology in Tennessee, Blacks in Technology, or more specific, like maybe a coding group or web design. So check those out too, because a lot of those are free to be a part of. Some you do have, there is a fee to join, or you can attend their events. You just have to pay for the event when you go. So I dropped those in there for you all as well. And then I do see Frank's email, his personal email in there for you all. So definitely take that down. And I think you put in your LinkedIn connect in there, or somebody did for you, Frank, to connect you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Okay, let me look at that. I didn't see that.
Possibly, I'm not sure.
Well,
But what other, I'm going to swing it back to you. I just want to let everybody know that's in the chat, and this is being recorded. I did see that and someone answered it. So I'll have that up on when we finish. I'll have it up on YouTube by next week.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I'll swing back to you. What other questions do you all have for Frank? He really is a wealth of information on this topic.
I'm a lot older. Be blunt. Years of wisdom and age.
Hey, Frank, I would love to know, what is your strategy with, I know there's a connection limit for LinkedIn, especially with the premium. And according to some forums, there's methodologies around it, but have you come up against that? Do you have a methodology yourself for keeping up your networking and connections per week to maximize really that subscription that you have through LinkedIn?
Well, my premium, I could tell you, I have probably close to 2,000 connections. So I am nowhere near a subscription limit. And I've been using it since almost it came about. I'm very picky on my connections, by the way. I don't connect just to connect. I got some today. Someone says, hey, I'd like to connect with you. Here's a job. I'm like, have a nice day. Back to what I said before, you know, people that build personal relations. So I haven't run into that when you said that. But I'll say that if somebody on this forum reached out to me and we knew, I'd probably accept you or would accept you. But I wouldn't accept somebody just blindly coming in. You would get, there's so much noise out there. I have a friend actually, he works in cyber. He was a former cybersecurity director for the FBI. He has over 10,000 connections. So, you know, I asked him, hey, do you know this person? I see your connect me. He says, I don't know. That could have been 3 years ago. You know, that's reality. I don't know if that answered your question, Kelsey, but I haven't ran into that. No.
No, it definitely does. It sounds that, if I'm hearing that correctly, that you are very particular with who you accept in your connections to really control that feed and make sure that you actually have a connection. So when you are going through this networking experience, you're like, yes, I personally know, say, Casey Santos.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've noticed, like, just really quick, I've noticed lately too, when I go to try to connect with someone, it gives you some options, or you can put in how you know this person, because even personally knowing 2,000 people, sometimes you're like, wait, how did I know, but how is it, you know? So, but I agree with Frank as well. I'm very particular. I'll go in and look at their profile, see who I know that they know, to make sure it is really a true connection, you know?
Yeah, I might play a little bit of a devil's advocate. I'm picky, but maybe a little bit less picky in the sense that depending on their approach, and then depending on, you know, what their role is, what they're doing, I might I might, just kind of getting a sense of them as a little bit of as a person, what they look like on social. But because the reality is with LinkedIn, you can get to 3 levels of connections deep. And sometimes it's that second or third level connection that makes a world of difference for you.
It
And
can.
somebody that may not be in your industry or may not be at the same level as you, or can't offer you professional value, can have that connection as their relationship. And so if you're connected with them, then you can kind of reach out to the other person and do your whole relationship thing. And that sense of like, I can bring value to you. I think we could bring value to each other. Let's connect. You can do that across that one person that you thought couldn't add value as a connection. So that's the one thing I'd say about that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, like, to go back to what I was sharing earlier, this is David's screen. You could see again, he's connected to 2 people, both of which I know Kevin better than Ben. I mean, so not that I would not accept the chief information security officer's invite is my point. But in that case, I could see somebody I may have a mutual connection where it might make sense too. It's just that sometimes, and literally I had one this morning, and it was like someone sent me a LinkedIn message to talk about a job. I don't know anything about the company. I don't know anything about the person. It's like, well, have a conversation. I don't know if I'm on LinkedIn with you because I don't even know you. So it's those type of things. And you said it, you can be picky or not picky, totally to the person. And that's what's good about LinkedIn. You have the choice.
By the way, you can call me lazy if you want, but my QR code is right there. If you want to like scan it, that's all my information.
I love it. I use the QR myself. That's great. I found that out with somebody was at, I'm old school again. I'm like, okay, what's your name? He's you the QR code. What QR code? And I found out about it. So yeah, that's good.
I just, sometimes the information gets lost in the chat. And I mean, I save this chat off too, but like when I get to it, I'm not sure. So
no, that's good.
I did drop my LinkedIn and Frank's LinkedIn in the chat. So, and I'll drop my work email in there too for you all. So if anything, you get my work email, I can get you everything in the chat pretty quickly.
Good.
I have a question for both Frank and Dave. Frank, thank you so much for your time. You were saying you had 2,000 connections.
I do.
How do you manage to keep those connections fresh, to keep it going, to remain in contact in a relevant way with individuals? Because I know it needs to start off personal, and I happen to like the personal approach. How do you keep it personal? Because I know LinkedIn is not your job. So there are other responsibilities. So how do you manage that?
It's a great question because in some of my connections, they're in different parts of the country now. Whereas I lived in Chicago, I live in Nashville, or people in California where I live in Nashville.
Right.
I don't get to see them. Sometimes it's through LinkedIn, just check in, but it's not an all the time like we're doing Facebook or anything. So a lot of the things come through in message, or a lot of things come from post, because I'll post something, they'll like it. Hey, Frank, that's great, or whatever. Or they'll post something, same back and forth. But through that, if you've met somebody once, it's not, and you make a good point. Networking to me is all about, if I went to that one event, and I know this isn't an event, you got to keep yourself relevant, stay in front of things, stay in front of people. Because if I go to that Nashville summit next week and it was a bomb, it just didn't work out. Well, does that mean I don't go to another one? Of course not. You go to another one, you keep doing it, get yourself known, because the second, third time people see you, they get to know you. And that's why I get to that. Same thing with LinkedIn. Same thing, stay in front of them by sending something on your posts, share things with your network, and vice versa when I say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave, my question for you is, how did you create the QR code?
I'm glad that you asked that question, to be honest with you. So I actually, I'm an entrepreneur. I have an app, it's called Icebreaker, and you can create this QR code on the fly. It's free. And maybe the easiest, I'll just spell it. It's ICEBREKR.com. So if you go to that website and download it, it's free. And, put your profile in there, and then there's a QR code button. And then I just, screenshot of the QR code button and put it, onto a virtual background. If you want to send me a message, I'll make one for you if you want. You got to do is download the app, but
That's
That
nice.
is so
that's actually
outstanding.
offer
Thank you
for
so
all-
much.
for all of you, if you want to send me a screenshot of your QR code that you make. The only thing about it, and this is a feature that I'll say real quick that I'm probably gonna put in there, is that to be able to make this QR code on the fly that you can put on your virtual background. Right now, the idea is if I meet you at an event, I can like Frank doesn't want to share his his work phone number.
Correct.
That happens at networking events. It's like, look, I want to share with you my email address, but I don't want you to get all this other information. But if you hand me your business card, it's all there, right? So whatever you have, it's all there. And so with this QR code on the app, you can turn off or on in the fly at the moment, and then share your QR code. So I'm going to make that possible for this virtual QR code. But anyway, that's the deal. Thanks for asking.
Nice.
Thank you. That's dynamic. Thanks. That's really cool.
Technology at its best. I love it.
That's a great idea. I'm all over your request. I already shot you a LinkedIn invite.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just dropped your LinkedIn into the chat there, Dave.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I wish I could have gotten an easier. Maybe it's easy to remember. I don't know. ICEBREKR.com. There's a Scandinavian clothing company that has the dictionary spelled word, and they're worth bazillions. So
Very nice.
yeah.
Well, anything else?
I did also want to say thank you, Frank, for your time.
Oh, no, quite. You know what? One thing Pat said again, Pat Maroney, when I say Pat, is that how many we give back. We all should give back our time when I say that, because it's a daunting thing that we all do in our day, looking for a job. As I mentioned, when I said I was out in 2002, it was a 17-month break. It was a humbling experience. But at the same time, I learned to give back to help people who are looking for jobs. That was a good reason, right? Because I lived it. But information's so vast out there. How do I start doing this stuff? And I'm just helpful, I'm thankful we can do this.
Awesome, Frank. Man, it's great stuff. I can see why you're a good networker. You like people. That's the first component of being a good networker, right?
People's all about it. I agree. I got your
Yeah,
LinkedIn, David.
And I can tell you, Frank and I, when we communicate, we might text a little or shoot each other an email, but we always end up jumping on a call, and we get so much done so quickly versus, the inundation of emails. And I hope that's coming back, because I know I always enjoy Frank's calling, we're going to double check everything for today. And, it's done in a minute or two, which would have taken probably 6 or 7 emails back and forth. So,
Question for the group real quick. Anybody looking for a job? I'll ask you the question for a reason. If anybody's looking for a job. Okay. When I went for a job, I was at a higher level role. And that was when I was in that position. I was 17 months out of work, and I got a job in that after 17 months, but it wasn't the job I really wanted, but it gave me an income, so I was very thankful. But then I went to interview with this company, and because I was at a higher level job, I'm interviewing with the guy that he's like, well, you've done my job, right? But anyway, I was interviewing with him, and it went great. And I could have he said, okay, well, I'm good. And I said, okay. I could have said, okay, and we walk away. But I asked him one question. I said, well, I do have a question. He goes, well, what's the question? I said, well, after everything we just discussed today, is there any reason why you wouldn't hire me for this position? He goes, well, he says, I do have a concern. I says, okay. He says, and here's my concern. And it was that concern. I said, well, can I address that? He goes, yeah. And I did. I said, look, I have been in that role before. I don't choose to be in that role before. The role that you have opening right now is the role I want. And I believe my experience can help. And I got that job. Had I not taken the time to ask that last question, we would have walked thinking, wow, it was a good interview. And it wasn't if I hadn't asked that. So I leave you with that because I know it's important when you ask for a job.
Mhm.
That's actually a great ending point for an interview when they say, do you have any other questions? That's a really great any other question,
Yeah.
Mhm.
especially like I'm transitioning industries. And so I think that that would really matter in making sure that people knew that I was actually interested in the job that I was applying for, not just looking to get my foot in the door to move up and get all the jobs.
Exactly. And sometimes they look at you, well, they're not going to be here long. You know, they're going to take this job and then they're out the door. And that's why that last question may give you a reason to let them pause and ask you, and then you can share and expand why you really want to work there. So yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I think that's a great, if anyone, are there any more questions? If not, I think that's a great point to end on. If you, and again, if you do think of any questions, you've got Frank's email, mine, LinkedIn, connect with us. You've got all of the different things that I dropped links for, and I'll have this up again next week on our the NTC YouTube channel. But I want to thank all of you for making time to come and listen to all the great things Frank has to say. And Frank, again, you've given us at NTC so much time in the last month or so. I just want to thank you again for carving that out of your very busy schedule.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you all have a blessed weekend with your families.
Yes. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Jackie. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Great presentation.